You know, for those of you that haven't muted, it might be helpful to do that.
Okay. Ms. Greer, are you able to see if all of the board members have joined us?
Don Corporal is having trouble getting back on.
Okay, I'm going to ask the principals if you guys could log off and watch from YouTube. I will copy and paste this address and put it. Are you able to see if all of the board members have joined us?
I will.
Yes.
Don Corporal cannot get on.
Jamie, Cassandra can't get on either right now. She's kind of important.
Maxine is on.
I want everybody to just take a deep breath.
Maxine is on.
It's going to be okay. If you are a principal, I'm going to ask again if you could log off so we can allow the board members to get on. I just sent an email with the live YouTube link so everyone can watch in real time. If you have a comment, I would encourage you to everybody to just take a deep breath.
Maxine is on.
It's going to be okay. You are a principal. I'm going to ask again if you can allow the board members to get on. I just sent an email with the live YouTube link so everyone can watch in real time. If you have a comment, I would encourage you to everybody to just take a deep breath.
Maxine is on.
Okay, I'm having some trouble with my Wi-Fi, so I'm joining by my phone. So I can't see the chat and I can't see everyone that's here. Which board members are here? Are we missing board members?
Don Culpro is still trying to get in. So is Crystal
Okay.
Bailey.
So I see we're only at 97 participants. They should be able to get in.
Actually, I'm here.
Mr. Hoy,
Okay.
Crystal's here.
can
Okay,
you
so
send Mr.
I'm trying again.
What's that?
Can you send Mr. Klein the link?
Let
Don?
me see if I can.
Yeah, I'm trying again right now.
Okay. I sent the link to Mr. Klein, Ms. Lunkins, and our nurse practitioner from Ascension Providence. Is everybody else on?
can you send it again to Don
got
Culp?
it. I got it.
Okay, she's got it. Good.
The YouTube she's talking about?
No.
Oh,
Miss Corcoran, I can send it to you right now.
She's sending it
Okay.
to you now. Bye-bye.
okay, she's got it.
Miss Corcoran, I can send it to you right now.
She's sending it to you.
If everyone else can please mute themselves so that we're not hearing the echoes. Thank you.
Miss Corcoran, I can send it to you right now.
She's sending it to you.
Are you guys still there? I'm worried that the screen is freezing.
Mr.
Yes,
Mr. Klein is not able to get in because it's maxed out.
Well, Dr. Hitchcock, that's not on you. Technically, we're having some technical difficulties with Zoom, so, you know, it happens. There's an alternative. You have a contingency plan, so there's the YouTube meeting. So it's not you.
Can I have a volunteer or a couple volunteers?
Mr. Klein is in. Mr. Klein is in.
Okay.
And then I'm going to simultaneously try to leave and then join from my computer because I got my Wi-Fi figured out.
Hey, I did that successfully. All right. So, thank you everyone for your patience. I see Al. I see Yosef. I want to make sure. Is Maxine here? Al, Yosef, Crystal.
Oh, there we go. Did Miss Goodfriend get back on?
Yeah, she's there.
Yeah, she's on.
Okay, great.
I would never leave.
Well,
Okay,
that's
Max
good.
there.
Did Miss Lunkins make it back?
She had an alias. She was somebody Jones.
That's her daughter.
What's her first name?
Danielle.
Danielle. No.
Yeah, is Jim not on?
I think Jim is trying to contact Zoom to figure out what's going on.
That's exactly what I was. There you go. Thank you.
No problem.
And
I feel
Dawn,
like
are
we
you-
need to do. What'd you say, Menachem?
is Trustee Corcoran on the call?
As long as we're waiting, I am. I see Owen Bondano is on. I just want to again say congratulations, man. Good job. Making us all proud.
Happy, what are you doing?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I'm trying one more time to get Dawn Corcoran on.
I was just able to
Miss
get in.
Pat-
Did we do anything yet?
Yes, Jamie. Yes, Dr. Hitchcock.
Oh, if I text you this link, can you work with Miss Corcoran to try to help her get on?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I have some bad news to share, and that is that a storm is coming right by our house, and our power always goes out. So let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers are crossed.
Good idea. I look forward to seeing you on a flashlight and an iPhone.
I'm in, man. I can do it.
Well, I'm in Ohio, and if I move my camera a little bit, you'll be able to see the giant nuclear reactor right behind me that's producing electricity for this whole area.
What's that, Fermi?
I have confidence in my electric connection, which is always the last.
Yeah, you're out there by Fermi.
Did somebody get in touch
No,
with?
No. What's the other one? The one up near Sandusky and Portland.
Oh, okay. Not aware of that one.
I'm
Did
trying
somebody
to
get?
keep these. I'm trying to keep these out of the shot.
Oh.
What's in the shot?
Oh, the Ohio State.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
He's a
How's your
troublemaker.
screen, Mr. Hoya?
He's a troublemaker.
Did somebody get in touch with Miss Lunkins Jones? Is she able to get back in too?
I am trying. You know what? I will call her. Let me try that.
She said she's in the waiting room.
Is she have the old link maybe?
So she clicked the old link. Blue, blue, blue.
I'm waiting on Steve Barr to slip in a nice little go green, go white.
Yeah, I was thinking that was going to come to as well.
Don't worry, Mike. If you haven't seen the hiring process, we don't even hire U of M people anymore. So,
Hey, you're our loss, Steve.
you know, turn this chat off.
Whew, goodness. I feel like we need to do some breathing exercises before we start the meeting.
All right.
I sent 2 links to Ms. Lunkins. I'm hoping she's good to go. If not, if we have another kind soul out there that can help, it would be greatly appreciated.
Dr. Hitchcock, this is Becky. I'm going to go ahead and leave the meeting and then I'll watch it. I've got it on my TV on YouTube.
No, we're at 99, so we have enough slots.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Yeah.
We just, I think the challenge now is getting. Okay, we just hit 100. So who was that?
Okay, Don is in.
Okay, I'm in.
Don is in. Cochran is in.
And I'm in.
Okay.
Crystal's here, and so we need another spot. We do need another spot then for Claudette.
Becky, we might take you up on that offer.
Yep, I'm leaving the meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Becky.
No problem.
Thank you.
Lucky you.
I think they can join. You have 99 participants, but you also have 48 non-video participants. So I think you're over your 100. So I think people can actually join. So if you look at the top, it says non-video participants, you have 49 up there and 98 down below.
Okay. We're going to, Carol, did you have Kim drop off?
And now I'm actually having trouble getting into my board books, but I think I have the agenda down. So with your guys' patience, which you've already demonstrated, hopefully we'll be able to get through this. And Dr. Hitchcock, are all of the presenters in? All the people who are presenting? I know we have Carol, we have the OPA candidate, the OPA principal candidate. I know Dr. Hitchcock is. Carol is the OPA principal candidate on?
No, she isn't.
We just had her drop off so that we can ensure that all the board members can get in. It's tricky because people are coming in and out, so we had to have her drop off.
Okay, well, we should have enough space. Do we have I know the medical professionals and then the teaching and learning team. Are they on?
I know I saw Cassandra.
Yes.
Yes, teaching and learning is on.
Teaching and learning, yep, we're here.
Learning is here, and then our medical professionals.
Johnny's there.
Yes, I think so.
Johnny's here, and Victoria's not going to be able to make it, right?
That's
correct.
Okay, and Benna. And someone sent me the agenda. I don't know who it was, but thank you very much. Someone texted it to me. Is that you, Dr. Hitchcock?
That was not me. Unfortunately, I was Miss Lunkins was having trouble getting on, so we were trying to get her going. I think
Okay.
she's gonna be okay. Thank you out there in live YouTube world for jumping off. If you jumped off to give us more spaces, we appreciate it.
So Carol, do you want to tell I'm sorry, I don't have her name in front of me, the candidate. Do you want to tell her to rejoin us?
Mike,
Yes.
the agenda's been adjusted. You might want to have Jamie introduce them.
I can, Mr. Hoda, I will try and get her back on it, and Jamie is going to introduce her.
Okay.
This is not the type of first impression that we were hoping to make, but hopefully she'll cut us some slack
Isn't
on
this
this.
the meeting where you're going to tell us how all the technical stuff is going to work smoothly?
You know, yeah, and like, you know, we didn't set this up or anything to say we need some additional technology support in technology
We're gonna
devices.
be fine. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. It happens.
Yeah,
I
it'll
think
be
this is the
okay.
meeting where we show that we're a district full of people who care so much so that we're overloading our technical capacity.
Right.
Thank you, Trustee
Sure.
Klein. That's a great reframing and focuses us on what's important. So thank you for that.
Or bloopers.
All right. So are we missing any board members at this point?
Lumpkins.
I think Trustee Lunkins is here. Did I get that right? I see Sarah Jones. Is that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
No, it was, what's her daughter's name? Was a D name, wasn't it? Danielle.
Danielle.
Yeah.
Okay, so is someone still working with Trustee Lunkins?
Yeah, I'm calling her now.
My goodness gracious.
Okay, yeah, I just spoke to Miss Lunkins' daughter. They're trying to get her on now. Evidently, they have to manually type in the login and password to a tablet, so because her phone is outdated. So that's where we stand. I mean, we have a quorum right now until she gets on. Is it fine to move forward? We're just doing the call order. Well, we need a roll call. Yeah, Mr. Hoyt, I think it'd be wise if we move forward with the meeting right now. We know that Claudette is logging on. We don't have anything right now to approve other than the agenda order. Well, the approval of the order, agenda and order of business, and then there's the superintendent's report. By then, Claudette should be on. We're going to 45 minutes into the meeting, delayed. You're on
I'm
mute.
ready.
You're on mute, Mr. Hoyter.
I agree with you.
All right.
I agree.
Let me just see, because someone just joined. Is Trustee Lunkins, are you there? Okay. So I am going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Oak Park Board of Education for Monday, August 3rd at 7:41. Ms. Greer, can you please call the roll?
Bailey,
Present.
Copran, Goodfriend,
Here.
Present.
Hoda,
Here.
Lunkins, Smith,
Present.
and Klein.
Here.
Okay. Approval of the agenda and order of business. Are there any changes to the agenda from members of the board? Seeing none, the agenda is approved as is. And again, if you can stick with me, because I'm working off of an old version of the agenda, but I think I have it in front of me. So I think I have it in my head, I should say. So if people can stick with me, our first item is a presentation from our community partners. Is that right?
No, it's the superintendent's report.
Superintendent.
Right. So Carol, are we going with your presentation first?
If our principal candidate was able to log back on, then we can jump right in. I will share this part. If she was unable to log on, I would be happy to share a little bit about her background so we can move forward.
She's here.
Oh, she's here.
I'm on.
Okay, so go.
Okay,
Carol,
awesome.
You're gonna take that one?
Nope, that's gonna be me,
Oh,
Menachem.
it's you.
I'm gonna
Okay,
go for it.
sorry, Dr. Hitchcock. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No worries. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna be stronger at the end of it.
That's right. That's right. Resilience.
Okay. I am very pleased to introduce to Oak Park Schools, Kim Regina. She is recommended to serve as the OPA principal, replacing Marsha Bonds, who we all know retired at the end of June. Miss Regina has a Bachelor in Science and Education from Central Michigan University, where she majored in child development and minored in language arts. She has a master's in educational leadership from Eastern Michigan University, teaching certification, administrator certification, and Kim has been in education for over 28 years. She spent 11 years as a classroom teacher, 17 years as an elementary and middle school principal, and she has worked in South Lyon Community Schools as both a teacher and principal, Wayne Westland as a principal, Livonia as a principal, Novi Community Schools as a principal, and most recent is a K-8 principal. We are so thrilled to have an opportunity to welcome or recommend Ms. Regina to our board for approval because of her extensive training in reading, writing, and math, instructional strategies, and several other models that are proven to increase student growth and achievement. During the interview process, we learned very quickly that she truly has a knack for data and the understanding for how to use data to move the needle forward for our students and to support teachers with instruction. I could go on and on about Miss Regina because we are so thrilled to have her consider joining our Oak Park staff. But I think some of the most important things to share are what her references said about her. So Sheila Ailes, she is the Chief Deputy Superintendent for the Michigan Department of Education. And I quote, said that she is one of the strongest instructional leaders that I've ever worked with. Very courageous, influential, and makes her colleagues better. She's much stronger with building relationships and parents and students and staff, and is a rare, rare gem. So I thought that was outstanding coming from the very top. Also, another one of her references said she's one of the finest colleagues I have ever served beside. This was Dr. R.J. Weber, who is the assistant superintendent in Novi Community Schools. She runs on the philosophy of building relationships by teaching beside her staff and doing what is right for kids. She is ridiculously committed. So, very strong recommendations, an outstanding background and experience. And it is with great pride and pleasure that I recommend Kim Regina to the board for the principalship position at OPA.
Thank you, Dr. Hitchcock. And in a moment, I'm going to ask Ms. Regina to introduce herself. I just want to say a word that the reason that we had, in the past, the board had met every principal candidate that was recommended to us before approval, and we had moved away from that in the recent past. When Dr. Hitchcock and Ms. Diglio called me last week to tell me about this new candidate, and we're so excited about her, especially given that this is such an important position for us in Oak Park. Finding the right person for OPA has been something that we realize is very important. I was going to say key, but that might confuse some people. It's that particular leadership position has been very important in the success of Oak Park schools. And so I thought it was important for the board to meet her in person, as it were, as we go ahead with considering her recommendation for principalship. So, Ms. Regina, thank you for joining us, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your vision.
Okay, hi everybody. It's nice to meet everyone virtually. It's been quite a trip just getting to this meeting. This COVID's been quite something. So one of my friends asked me when I told them I was interviewing for this position, they said, what kind of person interviews and makes a change, a career change right now during this time? And I thought a lot about that. And it was so funny because once I met everybody on the large scale interview, the collaborative interview where you had a committee meet with me, I felt like that the hope that everybody has for student learning and the drive for success that everybody's got for OPA. And the more I talked to people and the more that I interacted with everybody, even though it was virtually, the more I'm like, I have to have this. There's just such a feeling to the people that I met already and the vision that you all have for Oak Park in being the middle school there and being able to be such a large part of it. I'm so excited. So I'm thrilled that you offered me this position, and I'm hoping the board recommends. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any board members who have questions for Ms. Regina at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
So, Ms. Regina, this is Trustee Al Smith. How you doing?
Good.
So, just curious, why Oak Park?
Honestly, because I felt like the leadership that you have and the vision that you have for student learning, this commitment to moving forward with vision and innovation, all the while having respect for your students and the diversity of the students of Oak Park. That's a team I want to be on. That's why Oak Park.
Okay, and I want to thank you, and I love hearing, of your background and, also, your details into your whys. I thought it was very broad, and your experience level, very respectful of your experience. Educators, I'm a fan of educators, so I commend you. I know it's a hard job of sitting from this level, it's top down, and I understand all the intricacies, so we really, really appreciate that. I do want to say that, sometimes it's just that call to action. Sometimes that call to action, we must act up on. So I look forward to possibly having you come on board, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other board members with questions for Ms. Regina? Trustee Goodfriend?
No, I have no questions. I want to welcome you, although this is quite a surprise since it's happened before we even knew about it. But I like what I hear. I welcome you into this district. It's my pride. All my children went through the schools, And I hope for these children that we have today to have the successes that my children have all had. So welcome. And if there's anything I ever can do for you, just let me know with a phone call.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members with questions? And remember, board members, I can't necessarily hear you. So if you have questions, please speak up. I can't necessarily see you, I was going to say. Board members, if any other board members have questions? All right. If there's none, thank you, Ms. Regina, for joining us. We're going to vote later on in the meeting to consider your appointment, the superintendent's recommendation. And we move on to the next item on the agenda, which I believe is our health professionals. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So is it Dr. Nagapalo?
That is correct.
Okay. Dr. Hitchcock, do you want to introduce them or?
Absolutely. I'm going to start with our, what I would call a community partner in Ascension Providence. As many of you know, that we have a school-based health center located at Oak Park High School. When I came on board in Oak Park, they reached out right away and offered to support us in a variety of ways. Since that first conversation, we have had many conversations and have grown close as colleagues prior to COVID-19, and we spoke again and have worked together to hire a new school district nurse that we're really excited about. She joined us last week, did not join us this evening. So tonight we have the pleasure of having Johnny Hamilton join us. She has a number of letters behind her name and is the medical manager for Ascension Providence. She is a DNP, PMP, BC, NE, and BC, but she also is the medical manager for all the school-based health centers. And I will allow her to introduce the medical director when she hops on. So Ms. Hamilton, are you here with us?
Actually, I'm not sure if
yeah,
Dr.
she's
Nagapala
here.
joined us because earlier today she said that she probably was not going to be able to come on because she had another engagement. So can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can hear you. I just can't see you, but yes, I can hear you.
Well, I'm up here in the screen somewhere.
Yeah, I can see you, Johnny. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've had several conversations with Dr. Hitchcock, and we actually have had our school-based center at Oak Park for now. We're going into the 3rd year. We provide services for the students in the school as well as students in the district because we have an outside door where they can come to the health center without entering the school and leave the health center without entering the school building. We provide a number of, actually a full service health center in our Oak Park site. We have physicals, immunizations, well care, sick care. We take care of chronically ill children. We have medications, we do prescriptions. So we are actually, the nurse practitioner there, Ms. Dorsey is a certified family practice nurse practitioner and is providing service. We also have a full-time certified behavioral health counselor who provides behavioral health services for students. Not only he provide group counseling, individual counseling, he does education as well for the students. We actually have hired and almost have finished orienting the new school district nurse who is Miss Apina, and she is going to be up and ready to start. We're making sure that she has all of the things that she will need to service the 6 schools that she'll be providing assistance for, doing things like immunizations, actually taking care of some of the things that those students may need as far as orienting the school staff as far as medication administration and things like that. So she will be involved in that. I am free to answer any questions that you may have about even COVID or any of the things that you have in regards to the assistance that we can give the district as far as medical and behavioral health services.
So thank you. So yes, if you could tell us a little bit as we're considering tonight our return to school plan and whether to return to in-person to have an in-person learning option, to offer an in-person learning option for our students. Can you tell us what are the medical considerations that we should be thinking about? What is the medical information that we have available to us right now that we should be mindful of as we make that decision?
Well, what I can say is now, as far as Ascension and our other school-based health centers, as even the Oak Park Center, we are looking at seeing patients either both virtually as well as in person. We have started already. We have a protocol for seeing inpatient persons in the health center, and that includes making sure that we do the screening and testing before they even enter the site. We have appropriate PPE for not only our staff, but for the students who we'll be seeing. Making sure that everyone is safe. We are following actually the state and CDC guidelines as far as what we will be doing and how we will be treating patients. I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
I appreciate that. That is helpful. In terms of the medical information that we have available to us, as far as the infection, the community spread that's currently out there, and the risk to children, the risk to staff, the risk to our community. What can you tell us about that in terms of what we should be considerate of as we're making this decision?
Currently, Michigan right now where we are is that we're in phase 3 as far as what's happening with students. I think each school district has different aspects of how they're going to start education in the fall and how they're doing it now. In DPSCD, we have summer school going in some of the, especially in the 2 of the schools that we have health centers in, and we are assisting them with making sure that those students are staying safe by following the actual protocols and actually making sure that, first of all, if we have a student that has any symptoms, we have actually made sure the schools have what we call an isolation room where students can stay if we find that they may have symptoms as well. And be sure that we get those students tested right away to make sure that if they do show positive, that we make sure they have the quarantine is in effect, and any persons that they've been in contact without mask and within the 6 feet distance. And that's one of the things that's very important. Even if you have in contact with a person who has tested positive, if you and that person already were masked and were not closer than 6 feet, you're more than likely going to be fine. And we'll test negative.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna open it to other board members, and I'm gonna go through one by one so that everyone has a chance, if they'd like to ask questions. And I'm gonna start with Trustee Goodfriend. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think they've done a fine job.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. See you later.
Okay.
Where's Caitlin? Caitlin!
That's Miss Wesson. Miss Wesson, Elizabeth Wesson.
Yes.
Yeah,
your microphone.
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry, Trustee Goodfriend, go ahead.
What I was trying to say was that since Ascension has been with us for the past 3 years, our experience with them has been superb. And I wouldn't expect anything less than what has been going on. And now that we're in with this terrible situation with COVID, I know they're going to be overwhelmed at times, but I feel very comfortable with the personnel that comes into us from Ascension. So welcome, and please let everyone know the same, Ms. Hamilton.
Okay, thank you. Good friend. Trustee Lunkins, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. And the reason I have an issue is because I was a COVID-19 patient for 2.5 months. I know what it's like. And I don't ever wish it on anybody or want to see anybody go through it. I don't trust it. Whether I'm inside, outside with masks, no matter, I don't trust it. And that's how I feel. Now, I went through the machines that they put on you, dilators, the ventilators. And from August, no, from September 22nd to the end of May, I had no idea who I was, where I was, or nothing from this COVID-19. I don't wish it on nobody. It's nothing to play with. It's nothing to take for granted. You either take it serious or you take it in a joking manner, and 9 times out of 10, you end up with it. But if you know anybody with it, you need to respect it. Don't tell you, fun. Not at all.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Lunkins. Trustee Klein, do you have any questions?
No, sis.
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, you.
Crystal.
Trustee Smith.
Yes, Dr. Hamilton, is Dr. Kenneth Coleman, is he still involved in these workings in regards to the
Dr. Coleman is the director of the community health, school-based health centers. He's our director.
Right. So with that said, because of COVID-19, the uptick in possibly the planning of possibly returning to school, your team, the normal team that we had that was in the nursing stations within the schools, are we increasing that in size, or what's that plan of action there?
Actually, we still have the same 3 people that are at Oak Park High School. We did hire a district nurse for Dr. Hitchcock for her elementary schools. So that's the only increase in staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Bailey.
Thank you. I wanted to know, will there be free testing for everyone, students and staff?
Actually, we will not be doing COVID testing in the health centers, but we will have availability for testing at our Ascension Hospital, Providence, Southfield.
So the student or staff would have to go to the facility and to get tested rather than in school.
It will not be done in the school-based health centers, no. But we will have, they could either go to one of our outpatient facilities or to the hospital at Ascension Providence on 9 Mile.
And it's free.
Of course. Well, when they tell you it's free, they ask you for your insurance information. So it basically, most people do not have to pay out of pocket for the test.
Okay. And it would be antibody test?
All insurance companies are paying for the test.
Okay. And which test is it? Is it the antibody test or?
There are 2 tests. There is the actual test, the nasal test that they do to see if you're positive for the virus. And then the blood test is to see if you have any antibodies. That means you either have had it and recovered or currently in the what we call the prodromal stage of the virus. That means the 14 days hasn't passed.
Okay. Okay. So insurance companies cover this cost.
Correct.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Corcoran?
I'm sorry, did somebody else ask a question? Because I didn't hear it.
I
No.
was just calling on Trustee Corcoran. Go ahead.
No, that was my question.
Okay.
What Crystal said.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just one more. I'm sorry. I just had a quick thought. In regards to the health center, are you all, see, I'm so hoarse. Will you all be well stocked in regards to any PPE when the students or the administration comes to the health center?
Yes, we are. We have been making sure that every week our health centers are being supplied with PPE. So they're, right now, a lot of them are not able to see in patients. So they're making sure that we have enough for everyone that we need to see and for the staff that are in the health center.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Guida, can I ask some clarifying questions?
Sure. Go ahead.
I think there might be some confusion, so I just want to clarify. The first question is the school-based health center providing diagnostic testing to students or staff on site?
You mean diagnostic for COVID?
Diagnostic COVID testing? Mm-hmm.
No, we are not.
Okay. And if students need to come into Ascension Providence and they are uninsured, are they able to be tested?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. Do you know about how long it's taking for the test results to come back for adults or
It
children?
depends actually, usually 2 to 3 days and the tests come back. They have some rapid tests, but we have not been doing the rapid tests because there's been too many false positives and false negatives with those.
Okay, and based on your relationship with us and knowledge of our school district in terms of our student population, some of the challenges that we've shared with you over the course of the past year, do you believe that we should professionally, your professional judgment, do you believe we should return to school in person in September?
You mean for in-person learning? Okay,
Yes.
That's not my call, but I'll tell you professionally what I think. I think we need to look at what the school can provide as far as making sure that the students are safe. Do you have enough space in your building to make sure that your students are actually 6 feet apart? Do you have barriers for your teachers who are going to be teaching the students? Are you going to have the school prepared to have enough PPE for the teachers who are instructing? Those are some things that have to be considered before you say, yes, we can have students in the school. Because if you cannot provide the safe distancing, proper PPE, students would have to be masked for all day. If for lunchtime, they would not have to be. So then you would have to make sure that the spacing is appropriate for them to be unmasked. So there are a lot of things that you would have to consider before students are. And how many students are you going to allow? Are you going to do, I know some of our school districts where we have school centers, they doing Monday, we're doing a lot of different things in different school districts as far as bringing students back for September. Some school districts say they're not going to bring schools back until October. Some say not until December. So we're just, as Ascension and as all of the 28 school-based health centers we have, we're just following the school's guideline as to what they want us to do. However, we will be open and prepared to take care of students, whether the school is open or closed.
Is your understanding right now that the governor is requiring that there can be no more than 10 individuals indoors at one time?
She did move that up. Actually, the next executive order, I think it's now 25. And outside it's 100. So, and because when she opened up earlier and people were not following the rules, and we had outbreaks and a spike in in actual cases and infections. And so she had to go, we had to move back because people have to, they have to take this really seriously because this is not a virus that's going to go away. And if you look at, if you look at the past 100 years of medical treatments, we've had some kind of pandemic, epidemic every 100 years. And we have survived all of those by doing what we need to do medically, as well as being able to treat people and people being able to follow the instructions that need to be done. So I think with COVID, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, I was just going to ask one last question that I have been perplexed by in watching many different experts and medical professionals discuss this. I'm almost certain that the governor reduced the number of people that are able to be indoors to 10. I'm having trouble understanding the reduction in the number of people to 10 and the CDC's recommendation for us to return to school. And I was just wondering, as a medical professional, if you had any information to help me understand or to help us clarify that.
That's something that really no one can answer for individually, because I would, if I was answering as a parent or if I'm answering as a professional. If as a professional, I say if the situations are where that I would believe that all of the rules are going to be followed, then I would say yes. If they're not, if the spacing is not going to be available, if you don't have the proper equipment, because even if you're in a classroom, are you going to keep that student in the classroom all day, or is he going to move from classroom to classroom? And how are you going to clean those classrooms between each patient? Because if you clean, you have to wait 15 minutes for the whatever disinfectant you're using to dry. So it's like, can we do that? Is it possible for you to do that in your buildings?
Nope. Right. Okay, those were my only questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you. So I do have a couple more questions.
I'm sorry, quick question here. What was the reason? What was the reason?
Sorry, Trustee Smith. I'm sorry, I have the floor. I do have a couple questions. Ms. Hamilton.
Mr. Smith, were you trying to ask another question? I'm sorry, because I didn't hear you.
We'll open it up for second rounds from the board, but I haven't had a chance to ask any questions, so I have a couple that I wanted to ask.
I'm sorry, I think you started, President Hoyter.
Go ahead.
Ms. Hamilton,
yes?
in terms of the testing, and again, just to clarify, because there seems to be some confusion, if someone is uninsured and they come to one of your facilities for diagnostic testing, are they going to have to pay out of pocket for that?
Actually, no, because Ascension's policy is that one of their edicts is that we take care of the matter if they can pay or not. They may, they will be treated. They may get a bill. They may get help. They will more than likely get help to get some kind of insurance as well, because even Medicaid expansion is still in effect in Michigan. So, and there's no person under 18 in the state that cannot have insurance.
Okay. And can you explain to us the difference between diagnostic testing and antibody testing, please?
The difference being that the diagnostic test just tells you whether you are currently, the virus is currently viable in your system. The antibody test will tell you whether you have your system has built up antibodies to the virus, and those are present in your system.
Okay. And if we do decide to offer an in-person option, in your medical opinion, would it be appropriate for us to require testing of all students before they come in? should they have their temperatures taken every day? What is the level of sort of pre-screening that we should make sure is available if we do have an in-person option for people?
I kind of have a mixed feeling about testing all children because the test for the virus is really invasive, and it's not something that most children, depending on their age, would even be doing. Some of our teens are even squeamish about their vaccines. So I'm not a proponent for testing every child, especially because the infection in children has not been proven that they are more susceptible to getting the virus than adults. So that would not be what I would do as a medical professional, is test all children. However, some school systems are saying that all children have to be tested. And that's up to the parent whether they want that child to be tested or not as well. They are giving the parent the whether they can say yes or no. The other thing is, yes, temperatures need to be taken every day when the person enters the school. Not only the temperatures taken, but the screening questions need to be asked.
Okay, thank
And
you.
if those are positive, then that child needs to be isolated, sent home with some kind of a note telling them that maybe they need to be tested at that point because they are symptomatic.
Okay.
But I'm just not a proponent for testing asymptomatic children.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Smith.
Yeah, my question was just, I was curious, and maybe I missed this. What was the reason that Dr. Nagapalau didn't make it here to this meeting?
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was the reason, I don't know whether I missed this or was said earlier, but what was the reason that Dr. Bina Nagapala?
Dr. Nagapala?
Yeah,
our medical director.
Yeah, what was the reason why he or she didn't make it to this meeting?
She actually had another engagement. I'm not sure that's what she said. So she said if there were questions that she could ask, that possibly she could be on at another time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other board members who have any other questions?
I do, Mr. Smith. I don't have a question, I have a comment. This was Lunkins. I want everybody to know I did go to get tested before they found out I had the COVID-19. I was told to go home and hibernate for 14 days. 12th day, I ended up in the hospital. I ended up in Providence. That's where I spent my 2.5 months at, was Providence. Okay? And I still can't, even to this day, if I remember what went on, fine. If I don't remember, that's fine too. I'm not trying to remember. But all I know is that it only takes one person to have this virus, and everybody can get it. And it doesn't take that long to get it. I've had nurses that actually worked in the hospital who had members of their family die from this COVID-19. And for people to just take this for granted, it's not. It's not at all.
Ms. Lunkins.
I'm not sure. I don't know how all hospitals are treating the COVID-19. I just know the treatment that I received from Providence, from what my kids are telling me. It was the best treatment I could possibly get because they thought I was going to die. And for some strange reason, my will would not let me die. I fought to get back to where I needed to be. But with the kids, how do we know these kids can fight back once they receive this? We don't know that. And I would hate to see one kid get it. I really would. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If not, that's it for me.
As long as I'd like to ask you a question when it comes that time, the proper time. I won't take it now, but I do have a question for you probably at the end of our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lunkins. And I think I speak for everyone when I say we're so glad to have you back and joining us today. Are there other board members who have questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Klein.
has anybody looked at, I see some people on the message board are talking about other places that have opened up. And I'm curious if anybody, if our medical staff has looked at statistics or any sort of medical knowledge that's come out of places where they have left schools open or where they've opened up schools after a time outside of our immediate vicinity where basically everybody's been closed. I know it's cliche, but you know, certain countries like Sweden never shut down at all. Other countries have reopened. I know Israel, for example, just reopened. I'm curious if there's any data on that that anybody can definitively speak about.
Yes, it was right here in Detroit, where Detroit public schools opened for the summer.
I'm
They
sorry.
had 3
The
positives.
question was for our medical
So,
professionals.
oh, he said anyone. He said anyone. Sorry, that's what I heard.
I'm sorry.
I heard him say anyone.
I'm sorry.
Actually, there's a lot research is being done daily because taking all of the data that they have and sifting through all the data from all over the world and over the country and what's happening when students are in school. And even in DPSCD, we had 2 students. They tested like 230 some kids the first couple of days, and they had 2 positives. The 2 positives that were asymptomatic. So this is an ongoing actually, and I'm trying to say a stay as we go, because there is still research. The research is not, we just started the research. It's not even a year old, the research that is being done. So they're collecting data, they're doing research on people who have recovered, looking at seeing how long the antibodies will be lasting. And there are a lot of things that are going on. So it's like, this is a moving target. We go day by day as far as the research. We listen to what the CDC says, what the federal government says, what the World Health Organization. So we're looking at all those things and trying to make sure that we stay abreast of what's going on across the country as far as the virus, and making decisions based on that on a daily basis. So things change every day as to what we're going to do, what we should do, and how we're going to do it.
Thank you. Any other board members with questions?
Can I just follow up?
Go ahead.
It was mentioned that the CDC, that Detroit had 2 positives, I think you just mentioned. Do you know, or does anybody know, I'm sorry, that the question is addressed to our medical professional. Do we know what kind of tests those were, and if they were retests, if they were rapid tests? There's a lot of false positives going on. And do we know if those people ultimately got other tests and or any of that information?
They had the nasal swabs done.
Thank you. Any other board members with questions?
Yes, I have a
Trustee
question.
Goodfriend.
I think it's terribly important that we research this and look into it. At one time, they said children were not spreaders of it. Now we see much differently. There was a camp, 200 and some children in the camp in South Carolina. Okay, let's look at this reasonably. Tests don't always come back positive or negative, and by the time it comes back, it is far too late. We have to also take into consideration our staff, their home, our children, their homes, and their families as well. And it only stands to good reason to be on guard for everyone involved with this. This is a life or death matter. Maybe we just have to be able to involve ourselves to say that we'll do the best that we can as a virtual versus anything else, because there's too much unanswered questions as it is. And there's many things that are being withheld from the citizens of our country. And when we look at other countries with Sweden as such, they don't have the size nor the rash of disease that we had and still have, and it's getting worse. Today was 600 and some in the state of Michigan. The state Senate and the state legislature were closed today because of a state senator who has come down with it. So I think it's terribly reasonable to provide the safety, and nothing can be positive and perfect, nothing. And I was at a doctor's office today. Those questions are asked each time, even when you make the appointment. And then my temperature was taken. Well, I was fine because the Lord was with me today. But the point of the matter is, we have a lot of people's lives in our hands, our children, our staff, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just make sure we remain focused. We are going to have an opportunity for the board to debate this decision.
Well, it's more than debating. Thank you.
But at this point, we're asking questions of the medical professionals so we can get the medical information. So are there other board members who have questions at this time? All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Hamilton, for everything you have done for us today and for your partnership with our district. It's something that we really do appreciate, and that we appreciate going forward, especially as we know whenever it is that we do return to school in person, that this partnership that has been around for a long time is going to be key in helping us move forward as well. So thank you so much, Ms. Hamilton.
Okay, and I know Dr. Nagapala will, if you have another meeting that she can attend, I'm sure she will be glad to come on and give information as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
And we move on now to the presentation from the teaching and learning team.
And I'm going to step off.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'll be presenting from here.
And so Dr. Baptiste, welcome, and welcome to our district. Welcome to, I know you got thrown in kind of the deep end here, so thank you so much for joining us. I know for a lot of people, this is going to be their first time meeting you, and Dr. Baptiste is our new assistant superintendent for teaching and learning. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. Can everyone see this and can everyone hear me?
Yes, we.
Okay.
Yes.
I won't be able to see anyone as I go through the presentation. And so we are going to get started. Thank you everyone for your patience tonight and just for all of us coming together to learn more from one another, even in this time. So here we go, our Oak Park Schools Return to School Learning Plan. And I really want to start by thanking and acknowledging all of the members from the ad hoc committee. The Teaching and Learning Committee, we met on July 21st, July 27th, and also on July 21st, 27th, and the 31st. And so I really want to take special thanks to everyone who participated. Together, we determined some common values: accountability, compassion, flexibility, consistent communication, strong relationships, culturally responsive teaching, ongoing professional development, and also robust and rigorous teaching and learning. And all of these common values are a common thread as I present to you our plans. And so from our core values, we developed a core mission, which is to offer a high quality education that provides social emotional well-being by centering culture and community for students, equitable access to learning by providing accessibility to high quality, robust online instructional practices, training and support to the entire Oak Park Schools community. Also, quality educational options that promote lifelong learning and civic engagement. And to guide our plans, we relied on data and really wanted to specifically look at parent survey feedback. And so we looked at survey feedback from the spring, but we also developed a survey and sent it out on July 22nd. That survey garnered 670 responses. 57% of families preferred that their children remain at home. 34% preferred for their children to remain at home in the first semester and then return to school for the remainder of the school year, provided guidance as we move through the phases. 9% preferred for their children to receive in-person instruction. So the majority preferred for their children to remain at home. 59% of the family respondents showed an interest in receiving district-provided training for logging on and using online instructional platforms. And so that also guides the plans that we're going to be presenting. 93% stated that they currently have reliable internet connection. We also wanted to take a moment and visit the summer enrichment programming that was taking place, because that was an opportunity to see live, or what we refer to as synchronous instruction taking place. So our summer school findings, I had the opportunity to visit 2 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high school virtual classrooms. Every single class showed evidence of academic rigor. The lessons were aligned to state standards. There were social emotional connections. There were modified supports also for students that were identified as needing modified additional supports. The teachers reported speaking, and that's in every single class, reported opportunities to speak with and collaborate with parents over the course of the summer school enrichment program, which also helped to guide their instruction and their pedagogical decisions. And I just want to take a moment to offer a special note of thanks and appreciation to all of the teachers who provided instruction this summer and to the students who completed the program. And so this is what guides the options that we're presenting to the board this evening. The first option is the option that the district is recommending. It's full online learning with phased re-entry to in-person instruction. And so what that means is that on August 31st, students will attend online synchronous learning environments or learning classrooms, but they're happening online through October 30th. The second option is full in-person instruction. And what that means is on August 31st, students will attend full in-person school at their assigned school, while the district would be actively monitoring and consulting with health officials. And so, as I stated, the district recommendation is full online learning with phased re-entry to in-person instruction. Students would be attending classes with teachers and their peers until the completion of the first card marking period, October 30th, 2020. And as OPS proceeds through the phases of reopening, students may remain fully online, participating in synchronous learning alongside their peers, or have the opportunity to return to school during phases 5 and 6. And so should the board decide that we are in person, there is an option within that particular decision where no matter what, we're offering full online instruction from 2020 to 2021. The option is that students would remain online to return to in-person after 1 semester. And parents would be able to opt in for this if and when we return to in-person instruction. They have the option to continue with the online learning experience. Students would attend classes online with Oak Park teachers and also their peers who desire a full online learning community. From our conversations, one of our components of our mission was, in what ways will we be supporting for social emotional well-being? And that's across the board for staff included. And so student support and community building would be embedded into the online instruction. And that would look like morning meetings at the elementary level and advisory periods during at the secondary level. Identified screening tools that are used to identify students who are in need of support. Mental health and wellness support with drop-in services from Oak Park counselors, social workers, psychologists, and healthcare providers. Back to school social emotional learning lessons and ongoing teacher and family access to resources. Virtual family support groups and online virtual workshops. We would be offering opportunities for extracurricular clubs and organizations. In regards to staff support, strong staff community and online social support opportunities, multiple opportunities for staff to connect across cohorts, and this was elevated during the teaching and learning ad hoc committees, not only leading with empathy, but being led with empathy as well. And so throughout all phases, whether in person or online, Google Classrooms is our teaching and learning hub. And that's where we will be offering inclusive access to the following: opportunities to communicate and collaborate with staff, remaining on track via daily schedules and agendas with clear expectations across all grade level and content area courses, progress monitoring, attendance, and assignment submission, connecting to classroom and accessing synchronous or live and asynchronous self-guided instruction, receiving quality feedback from Oak Park Schools educators. And each student will receive a device, support with internet service, and internet connection as needed. We believe that providing a robust and rigorous teaching and learning, that pretty much that's the Oak Park advantage. And that's what guided a lot of our planning when we had conversations around curriculum and opportunities to connect students to synchronous instruction. And so in thinking of our families, what can they expect? A structured school day with students attending scheduled classes, regardless of receiving in-person or online learning. Attendance would be mandatory. Multiple opportunities for live and engaging synchronous teaching. Asynchronous learning opportunities would support content delivery. And so what we mean by that is additional videos and opportunities to reteach and interactive activities for students to engage in. Full course curriculum to meet grade completion and expectations for graduation. Cyber safe access to learning activities using Google Classrooms. Alternative daily schedules developed for online learning. And so student grades and also report cards would be issued. The same rigorous, high quality educational experience. That is the expectation with virtual learning. In regards to student interaction and engagement, we do believe that those are the cornerstones to our success. And the following culturally relevant and universal design approaches it will be in place to support the needs of our diverse learners. And so the lessons are designed to support effective learning and student engagement for both online and in-person instruction. And the following strategies, they are that we will be using the essential standards to address learning recovery. And we will make it a point to recognize that students bring their unique experiences and knowledges to the learning environment each day, and that should be centered. Meaningful student discourse and peer interactions every single day. Multiple points of entry into the lesson and curriculum. Clear learning targets and objectives through every lesson. Quality, relevant, and applicable feedback so that students have an understanding of how they can grow and how they can progress. And also, it's a two-way communication where students are also elevating to teachers ways in which they need support. Throughout phases 1 through 6, we are committed to providing students with additional supplemental learning opportunities, targeted supports, and connection to our highly qualified professional staff. And so support sessions would be scheduled and synchronous services would be taking place in the classroom environment as well as in small group settings. And this would be for the following populations: services, specific services for students with special needs, English language learners, core academic and social emotional interventions. And in thinking of our Great Start Readiness Program and Head Start students, they would be receiving technology devices and internet service. They would be receiving instruction through certified Oak Park Schools teachers. And the expectation would be that parent meetings would be taking place via teleconferencing. And a special note for servicing students with disabilities, all individualized educational plans will be followed. Applicable services, meetings, and daily instruction for the following programs will be conducted virtually. Our early on program, so that's birth to age 3, ECSE, early childhood special education, resource one-on-one or small group instruction, and students would be receiving direct instruction aligned to their IEP goals. All annual IEP meetings will be held virtually. Students who are receiving 504 plans or on a 504 plan will also be receiving accommodations. Special education and general education teachers will continue to collaborate. All instruction, assignments, and assessments will be accommodated and modified as outlined in the IEP by both the general and the special education teacher. And so an opportunity to discuss our sample daily learning schedules. I invite members of the teaching and learning team to join in: Katie Morrison, Jason Hafner, and Shayna Murphy Holden. If you could join in on this portion, which I don't mind continuing, but.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Baptiste. So this is Shayna Murphy
Oh,
reporting.
one moment, Shayna. I do just want to highlight something. Sorry, Shayna. I do want to highlight that these schedules are tentative, they're samples, and the way that they were created in consideration, we know that there's negotiations and bargaining happening. So what we wanted to do during our ad hoc committee meetings was take a moment to be able to have a visual of what the day could look like with synchronous and asynchronous opportunities. In no way is this a set schedule with set times. It's just to be able to provide a visual, just to see how the learning could come to life. Okay, Shayna, take it away.
Absolutely. So as we thought about our recommendations that we thought were critical to this work around making sure we had all 4 content areas covered, making sure we had a specialist time in there for students, lunch and recess, along with teacher office hours for parents and students that went really well in the spring and summer. Embedded breaks and movement for students so they're not in front of a screen for an extended period of time, along with that social emotional supports that we know that our students are definitely in need of. And so we wanted to make sure that we had opportunities for connections in both the morning and afternoon, for restorative circles, for sharing, for time, for that time to make those connections. We also thought about the needed supports of our staff members. And so a daily PD time of about 30 minutes is embedded or thought about in this schedule to make sure we have time to build capacity in this new environment. And so on the next slide, we have an example schedule that was created by our lower elementary ad hoc committee members. And as you can see, it takes into account all of those recommended segments of the day that would make for a robust virtual instructional program. We take into account staff PD and some early morning student tutoring. We know in the spring, we still offer tutoring in a virtual environment, and many of our students took advantage of that, and it was very helpful. We also have embedded in there all of our core content areas with whole and small group. And we know that small group is important so that we have opportunities to recover the learning loss that students have endured over the last couple months. But we are very cognizant of making sure that time is carved out to build those skills back up in students. And in this schedule, from our lower elementary who were on the ad hoc committee, we thought about how important the social emotional supports were, along with making sure that we were still meeting the individual needs of our scholars. And so we thought about an example such as Wellness and Win Time Wednesdays, where that would be the middle of the week, where would be an opportunity for our student support services to meet with students to give them those ancillary supports, such as speech and OT and all those things, as well as the win time, which is what I need time to build those skills up with students that they missed over the last months in a very intentional way in small group instruction. And then on the next slide, we have an example of what upper elementary could look like in a synchronous and asynchronous blended model, where again, we have an opportunity for staff development in the morning, a connection time for staff, just to, connect at that moment before the day begins. We also have embedded in here all of our core content areas along with specials. Again, those social emotional connections throughout the day with circle time or restorative practice meeting times, along with teacher office hours and parent support embedded in there. Along with that, with the live times, teachers are committed to posting their assignments in a virtual environment such as Google Classroom or whatever we decide upon, so that families that need that support at times outside of this, that it is also available. So those are the options and the examples that our elementary colleagues came up with in our ad hoc committee. And I'll kick it over to the high school.
Right.
So, yeah, this is Jay Hafner from the Office of Teaching and Learning. And just to give a brief overview of the secondary schedule recommendations before I kick it over to Katie, who she's going to review the actual schedule. It's very similar to what Shayna just described. A lot of the considerations that we took were to ensure that many of the necessary services that a student serves and experiences that a student would go through in a regular school year, that they would participate and have options for that in an online learning environment as well. Something else to uplift is that this work of what online learning looks like really began in earnest all the way back in March. So there have been building blocks along the way, from our March closure to our continuity of learning plan 2.0 to the synchronous summer that Ms. Baptiste talked about. And all of that has sort of informed the decisions to provide these experiences to students in an online learning modality. So synchronous teaching class schedule for all students. So they will have a 1 through 6 class schedule with asynchronous supports that incorporate their entire schedule. We built in that teacher prep hour at the beginning of the day in order to make sure that we have opportunities for our teaching staff to come together, identify curricular resources, curriculum decisions, so on and so forth. One of the successes we saw out of our Continuity Learning Plan 2.0 that our ad hoc committee team continued to uplift was office hours. So we have that built into the schedule, extended contact opportunities for remedial support for our students. We built in a lunch period to break up the day and make sure that our students and staff have an opportunity to eat lunch. Daily social emotional support times that allow for regular student support and coordination with our ancillary school staff to provide any necessary social emotional resources that our students might need. And then we also built into the end of the day an end of day family connect, which allows for parent family support opportunities, connections with our staff, and making sure we have time built in to where we can maintain those relationships and address any challenges our parents may face. So if we go to the next slide. Katie, if you want, you can now walk through the what the proposed schedule may look like.
Thanks, Jay. So I want to give credit to the ad hoc committee, the teachers, just for really lifting up all of the incredible things that happened both in the spring and in the summer in really unprecedented times, right? Like, I don't think anybody knew March 12th that we were going to walk away, not knowing when we'd get to come back to our kids in person. And so I really just uplift all of the incredible things that, you know, when the teachers said we need to have flexibility, they also uplifted that we need to have consistency for our parents, our staff, and our staff and our students. And that's what this schedule provides. So the schedule is meant to outline what would a student be doing during a day, what would a teacher be doing, and what could a staff or what could a parent expect for their student to be working on. So as Jay mentioned, we've built in 1st through 6th period synchronous teaching. So those schedules that our school leaders worked so hard on the spring aren't going away. They're going to be built into this online model. So the kids are going to have their 1st through 6th period. We also, like Jay said, office hours just really lifted up an opportunity for teachers to build one-on-one supports with with their students. And so wanted to highlight that in there. Teacher prep hour is a way for our teachers to build those connections with each other, making sure that they don't feel isolated in a virtual world, that they're presented opportunities to meet with their grade level PLCs, their content level PLCs, but also as a whole staff. I think, you know, there's not a lot that came out of a virtual world that we can say is positive, but one of the things is that we can be more creative in how we make sure that schools can meet with each other across multiple times. So, you know, the teachers also came up with some expectations so that it was clear for all teachers what students and families could expect during each of these times. So as Cassandra, Jay, and Shayna said, this is a draft, but we feel really good that this is a good starting step for what our virtual learning could look like in the fall. And so I'm going to hand that back over to Cassandra.
Thank you so much. Thank you, just the entire team, really appreciate it. In regards to training and support, commitment to staff professional learning and ongoing development and parent supports, all of this was gleaned from survey and feedback information. And so for our teachers, building capacity around digital literacy and online instructional design, establishing positive communities in a remote setting, focused professional learning experiences around focused professional learning around best practices in an online setting. And so when we think about instruction, we think about question and discussion techniques, how students are going to be questioned, how we encourage engagement, how we monitor feedback and offer them opportunities to showcase their learning. So there would be professional development in these areas. Again, providing technical supports to families on how to access and utilize all of our online platforms, and a continued focus on servicing social emotional well-being of all students. And as we transition from online learning to in-person instruction, throughout those phases, it would be considered safe to return to full in-person learning, and all scheduled courses would resume within the school setting. Ideally, of course, with following health and safety precautions and protocols, those would remain in place in accordance with the health guidance and Michigan's Safe Return to School plan. And so our recommendations and our final thoughts, our recommendation to the board is that instruction is provided through an online learning platform from certified Oak Park Schools teachers and staff through card marking 1 or October 30th, with active monitoring and consultation with public health officials through card marking one to determine a safe return to in-person instruction. And this recommendation prioritizes the health and safety of students, staff, and families, and it's based on the most current education and research. And with that, we thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baptiste. Once again, I'm going to call on each board member if anyone has questions. And I'm going to start with Trustee Bailey. Do you have any questions for the teaching and learning team?
Sorry. Stop share right now, unless if you all want me. Of course, I'll bring it back, but.
Thank you, Dr. Baptiste. Trustee Bailey, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I wrote them in my notes. Sorry. Uh-oh. Actually, can you come back so I can write them down? Because I screenshot and marked on my phone, so I have to.
Sure. Trustee Corcoran? Trustee Corcoran, did you have any questions? Okay. Trustee Goodfriend.
Yes, I have just a couple. The presentation was done beautifully well, and I thank all of you for the work that you put into this. The question is, how much time will we be giving to for professional development or working with our staff before the commencing of the school year for our students? That's really important. You know, there are some of us that do well virtually, and there are some of us that don't do as well virtually. And the human touch is really important for those that don't feel as comfortable on a virtual situation, but rather to be working directly with their students, which appears that won't happen. So because of that, what will be the professional development? How much time will we give to our staff so that they can work together and work out the kinks, so they have the understanding of how they're going to perform? And for our younger children, that does mean that they will have to be in a situation where there's an adult in their environment. Is that not correct? And how are we going to know that you're going to have that support, or the youngster's going to have the support and preparing of lunch times, etc.? So those are questions that I think it's really great to tell us from 8 to 9 we're going to do, etc. And from 9 to 10 we're going to do, and 11 to 12 we're going to have lunch. But it on paper it's lovely, but how is it going to happen?
That's a really good question. Now, what I would say is that we also, during the ad hoc committee, we sent out a survey asking teachers what types of professional development do they believe they need, and also what type of professional development do they believe that their colleagues may be in need of. And that is a great deal of what is going to drive how we offer professional development and what we offer in regards to professional development. And so we have on August the 25th and August the 26th, those are our professional development days. That's 10 hours, 5 days each of those days of professional development learning opportunities. And I do believe that using Google Classrooms as a learning hub is a wonderful opportunity for us to build out Google Sites, where we can actually have our professional, what we refer to as PLCs, all of the learning plans, all of the modules, not only online, but with a webinar that's recorded to go over what are all the different ways that you can utilize Google Classrooms. If we determine that we're going to use another type of platform, there's a professional development opportunity for that. And every single thing that we do in regards to professional development can live on this hub. When we distributed the parent survey, we were very intentional about asking what specific types of professional development, if they would be interested. We had an overwhelming majority who said they would be interested. And so there would be parent virtual workshops. And the one good thing with being in a virtual space is that you can record activities, you can record webinars and professional development and place it in a location where people can access it. And so I am very much determined, especially in the very first couple of weeks of school, to not only have things that are related to curriculum, but even how you log on to Google Classrooms, how you have your students submit the work, so that parents are also aware of this is how your child or your children submits the work. This is how the work is graded. If we're using a platform, let's say such as Rethink, which is where at the elementary level, all of our curricular materials and resources are housed. So the workbooks and worksheets and things of that nature, some of the assessments, an actual webinar or professional development opportunity so that parents understand this is how you log on to this system, or how you help your child log on to this portal and access their work.
This good friend, if I can follow, this is Steve Barr. And if you recall also, we asked the board and you did approve the purchase of very high-tech laptops last board meeting. And those will be in sometime, not for the start of school, but sometime later in September. And that will be a great help to every teacher in the district.
Yes, I do understand that. And thank you, Steve. I think it's important to put out to our community as well. And to the parent community, our staff does know it. But when Ms. Batista, what I'm saying is when, refresh my memory, when school would start, virtual school would start. What is the date?
The date for that is on August the 31st. And so we have built-in professional development days on August the 25th and August the 26th. Also, I'd like to elevate that those would not be one-off professional development opportunities. We would be offering opportunities at the district level for teachers to join in on professional development related to curriculum planning, related to formative assessments, question and discussion techniques, student engagement online, social emotional best practices. There would be opportunities to even showcase like a cycle for professional development that could then there are touch points where when they're in their school building, well, it would be virtual, but now they're like doing a professional learning community with members of their teaching team that are at the school building, that those same types of best practices learned in the PD could be applied during those times as well. So there would be building professional development and also district level professional development, in addition to common preparatory times for teachers to come together to engage around all of this.
And this is much more intense than what the summer school workshops were with the students.
Absolutely. And actually from the summer school workshops, from debriefing with those teachers was a great deal of where we learned that even the manner in which the professional development, to your point, would be offered, I believe that the best way to go about this would be for teachers who want a slower, more guided pace. And then for teachers who are just, hey, they're tech savvy right out the gate, they're really into this technology, thing. And so professional development opportunities, even that would be scaffolded.
Okay, because honestly, not everyone is tech savvy.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for your answers. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Goodfriend. Trustee Klein, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Has anybody, and to what degree has anybody followed up with the students to find out how they've felt in terms of what their ability is to get the information, and not just one or two, but on kind of a grander scale to try to capture the whole of the district. And as far as the information, maybe from the teacher's side, do we have an idea of what the expectation is for what can be conveyed and how far the grades can go as compared with what we usually would see in terms of in-person classroom instruction? And as a final point on the same issue, if it's going to be slower, are we starting to think at all about how we can catch these kids up in the long term? Maybe that's too far out, but just to try to get the grade level so we can have some sort of normalcy when our kids graduate.
Okay, so I'm hearing 3 questions: 1 on student feedback, 2 on teacher expectations, teacher expectations for in-person instruction, and then learning recovery.
So 1 and 3, exactly. And I'm sorry to give you such a wide bite at once. The second question was in terms of if we go with virtual, because there's a lot of presumption here that that's what's going to happen. What is the expected drop off? Or do we expect that we can teach a 4th grader 80% of what we would expect with in-person instruction over the course of a semester or a year? Or is it 60% or is it 95%? What is the lag?
Okay.
That's my second question.
Okay, so I would say to start off with feedback that there were surveys that were distributed in the spring, and then also just from student interactions that I had over the course of the summer. We wanted to have students be able to participate in an ad hoc committee, but we moved our meeting up to July 31st. But at that meeting, we would have had student representation. We can always have another ad hoc meeting where we ask students, to come in and elevate student voice, especially members from student council. What I have gathered anecdotally is that students do prefer the synchronous instruction. So that's in regards to student feedback. For the second question that you asked in terms of grades drop off and the 80 and cutoffs and 80% and all that, a lot of that is actually going to come from state guidance. And I think that that's something even nationwide that's being determined at the state level for how to support with student growth models, especially considering that in the previous year, we don't really have data to go off of to help determine like the next step for student growth. And so quite a bit of it is going to have to rely, which goes into your third question. So we would be using state guidance to help us with this. But to your third question, which kind of addresses the second in regards to learning recovery, we would be utilizing the Michigan Essential Learning Standards, and also, and that would also be a part of the professional development that I do hope to be able to offer, which is where we look at those learning essentials and seek out opportunities to engage in learning recovery that are grade level standard aligned. And when we develop our curriculum, or put together our scoping and sequence calendars, that we seek out opportunities for learning recovery and re-instruction. And so that would be something that's across the grade level, across content areas, something that we would have to do. And my suggestion would be doing a style of curriculum that's thematic curriculum units of study where you can address multiple learning standards and have the opportunity to address even grade level standards that would be from the year before, while still addressing learning standards that are in the current grade year. So different performance tasks, different types of experiential learning assignments, where, let's say if you take a student on a virtual field trip, and it's an ELA lesson, that you do take consideration of the grade level standards from the year before and the grade level standards from the current year, of like what crossover would take place so that you're actually able to address the learning recovery.
Thank you so much, especially on the last, concrete examples are fantastic. I really appreciate you've clearly done so much work on this. I'm curious, you mentioned a lot of that we can video the staff educational pieces, so that the staff can watch things again and have them and save them in the back pocket. Are we doing anything like that for student instruction? And as a separate piece, aside from actual lessons, has the district considered, this may be a terrible idea, by the way, because I'm not an educator, it's just something that's off the top of my head. Has anybody thought about doing little mini supplemental lessons that are maybe available or optional for the students who are having trouble or struggling? Those are the kids that I'm really worried about.
Absolutely. And those are also wonderful opportunities for asynchronous instruction, where there's a video and then some questions that the student can answer. And the teacher would then get the feedback that, oh, you know what? The questions that they're answering are aligned to a standard and they're missing this. This is an opportunity for an intervention. This is an opportunity to do reteaching. This is an opportunity to place the student in this particular group according to their various abilities. So yes, this is the piece that you're talking about that really goes into a great opportunity for using asynchronous instruction and leveraging that to support student growth.
So it's kind of a mouthful. So we're looking into options to put on instruction that the students can access outside of standard class time to review on their own?
We absolutely are, because there are opportunities
Fantastic.
there. Yes, absolutely. And even, I just recall being a classroom teacher that there were times where I felt like this is also like just a fun and engaging way just to keep you interested in the subject matter. So at the very beginning of a unit, before let's say at the very beginning of the unit, learning about the phases of matter, a video about what do you know about the phases of matter? And then a question that questions that you can answer, and they're aligned to next generation standards. I now know that you do know the phases of matter. So now I've got to do some things accelerated, or you don't. So I've got my legwork in providing additional pieces of instruction to support you. So yes, that again, that would be a great opportunity when we talk about asynchronous instruction. And also, there may be pieces of a lesson that a teacher may decide to record where they're not recording the students, maybe they're just recording themselves, and they put that piece so it's a reteach opportunity that the student can replay.
That's what I meant, and that's an option for teachers. I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Lunkins, do you have any questions?
Just a few. I like what they have put in place. It's just that I have a problem with school starting before the end of October with the way this COVID-19 virus is going. But there again, too, that's just my opinion. And I'm quite sure I'm not the only one that has that opinion. But I do believe that the format in which they have shown us tonight, it's a good format. It's just getting parents to buy into it, and also finding out where the state and the students and the parents, and most of all the teachers, are going to be between now and October 31st when this COVID virus still exists. That's it.
Yeah, and to your point, Ms. Goodfriend, that's also where it's really important to follow along with state guidelines and with health officials intermittently, like throughout, up until October 31st, and even throughout the course of the year, to be in contact with people and to keep abreast with the science and guidelines. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee Smith.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity of participating in that parental survey, and I'm glad that I'm finding out per those numbers that I did fall into the upper echelon of thinking what the rest of the parents are thinking in regards to our forward movement and the commitment to the children, as well as what it is that we would like as well. So I was glad to see that. I so happen to, I don't have questions, but I do have comments. Okay, I think the team did an outstanding job on this planning. So kudos to that. You are all subject matter experts. We're relying on you. We're relying on your expertise in covering what is needed and required for these children. I feel that we are also capable of thinking outside of the box, and I'm seeing that incorporated into this planning as well. I'm an IT professional over at Ford. I'm a lead at Ford, and this is what it's about. It's about cloud computing and getting these applications to allow for iterative learning, and we call them KT sessions. So as grown people, we're getting KT sessions. I think it's going to be an outstanding experience for those parents that are going to be at home with their children, and a learning lesson as well. I am relying on parents as a team, as a dedicated parent, and there's a number of parents out there that fit that as myself, that are engaged with our children. And it's going to take that level of engagement. We got to remember that this is not permanent. This is not permanent. This is a solution. Dr. Baptiste, I just want to thank you and welcome you aboard. I think this was an outstanding plan, and I hope that our parents stay as engaged and committed for the duration that we fall or start trending downward in this. Have this utilized as our contingency plan moving forward, so in case that this ever happens again, then we have that plan that's there. Synchronous and asynchronous instruction, I'm a fan of it. Sometimes, grabbing those students grabbing their attention. I do worry about that. I worry about, the attention span from time to time when they're getting this direct instruction. So I'd like to see how that works out though. I have faith in it. Like I said, the ratio of quality participation, that's going to be key, and that's going to be on parents. The parents are going to have to step up and make sure that these children are doing what they're supposed to do to get the outputs that we're expecting. Okay. Once again, that ratio, no, we're going to have to gauge that and see what's happening, during the time. So I know that we're going to have to take this step by step, and we're going to do it by quarter. I was a fan of the semester. Why was I a fan of the semester? I was a fan of the semester because wintertime is coming. Wintertime is coming, and my expectation is that those numbers are going to go down because we're going to have less people going outside and infecting everybody. And that's my thought on that, but we'll take this quarter by quarter and gauge it then. Social emotional learning and well-being. I've always been a fan of that. I know that we're going to be going through some challenges, the children, the teachers, the staff, everybody's going to be going through challenges here. And, these kids, they're going to rely on us for that support model. So the social emotional learning and support services and curriculum, that's going to be key in this. And mind you, like I said, this is temporary. So I think great plan. I'm a fan, and I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work and due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Bailey?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't. Okay. So let me see. I got my notes here. I had a question. I think that the presentation was spectacular. It was spectacular. It hit on all the main points, and a lot of my questions were already answered, but I still have one about the teachers. Is it an option for the teachers to record themselves? And how would the teachers be evaluated virtually? Like teacher evaluations, how would that be done virtually? Have we got there yet?
So, the option to record themselves, that's something that would be negotiated. They're currently under negotiations at this time. So for me, I'm just gonna state fine, okay, but for cybersecurity of students, just falling in line with recording your instruction, not necessarily your instruction for instructional best practices to share with other teachers an idea that you have, or your live instruction. Like there's during the summer school enrichment, I had the opportunity to see a class where the teacher was using a program software called Kami, and was able to have their hand writing, going through a math lesson. And the only thing that would have been recorded would have been their hand just going through and showing examples and models. And so you can see the instruction happening, and also it panned back to face-to-face conversations that were had with the student and the teacher. But just that instruction of modeling something for the students is something that could be recorded, where it's not, if the person doesn't want to show their full face or their own personal identity or anything like that. Those are conversations that are, though, geared more for negotiation. Now, I'll tell you, for evaluation, in regards to evaluation, the principals would also need professional development around evaluating in a virtual space, looking at the framework that we use called the 5D framework, the opportunities for what that looks like in a virtual space, the modifications, and also the way in which teachers are given feedback. That is something that we are looking into. Yes.
Okay. And then will children have standardized testing?
So that's also still being determined at the state level. That wouldn't be a decision that we at this time.
No, right now. Not yet anyway.
Not yet.
Okay, and then you had a slide that on the full online secondary schedule recommendations. So the last one, end of the day, family connection, allowing for parents and family support opportunity and connection. Is that just the parent getting on with the teacher after class is ended or something?
Well, so that's the 2:30 to 3 p.m. Family Connect area that you're speaking of?
On the full online secondary schedule recommendations, the slide,
Oh,
the last,
the recommendations.
Full online second schedule recommendations. And it says we were this 6 through 12. And at the last bullet point is the end of the day, family connection, allowing for parent, family support opportunities and connections.
Yeah, so that's an opportunity for during the actual instructional school day, if parents wanted to reach out to teachers, or even if teachers wanted to reach out to parents about any maybe special projects or just opportunities for parents to still be in the loop. Even at the secondary level, there's deadlines, we're still hoping for college and career readiness, any opportunities for the teacher and the parent or family to still be able to connect. If there's a way for us to embed that into, or for teachers to offer that as an opportunity, we would highlight that and elevate that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Baptiste, thank you for your excellent.
I had a question.
I'm sorry?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Trustee Corcoran.
Thank you. So the question that
I'm not sure if
when the
it's
child or the scholar students
Trustee Corcoran, we're having trouble hearing you. It sounds like. Would you like to try typing your question in the chat and I can ask it to Dr. Baptiste?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
Yes.
better. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, now I can't hear you, Trustee Corcoran.
You posted it in the chat room, Mr. Hoyta.
What's that?
Oh, I see the question.
It's in the chat room.
Okay. So Dr. Baptiste, when Trustee Corcoran's asking when the student, if a student tests positive, what would happen in terms of makeup work?
Makeup.
I guess that's if we do, I guess either way, if we're having in-person school or even not in-person school, if a student is affected by COVID, what would happen for makeup work?
Well,
can you hear me better now?
I'll
Yes,
jump
we can
in
hear
and
you
take
better.
that one.
Did I get that
Mr.
question?
Hoyta.
Go ahead, Trustee Corcoran.
No, I was just wondering, could you hear me now?
Yep. Did I get your
Okay.
question correctly? Did I understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was just that if they were to test positive for COVID, because they have to go into a quarantine, you know, how would that, you know, be with no one being around or what have you? How would that work?
I'm going to take a shot at that, Ms. Corcoran, because we have not fleshed out all of those details, but the benefit of being virtual is that if a student tested positive and they were asymptomatic, meaning they weren't exhibiting any symptoms, they didn't feel ill, or they weren't coughing or having any trouble physically, they could continue to participate online through synchronous and asynchronous instruction with their teacher in the same virtual community with their classmates and peers. The downside of that is if we're in in-person instruction and a student tests positive, they would still, like any other illness, be afforded the opportunity to make up their work. And they could do that at home. And we would have to determine whether we would have a live feed or there would be a completely separate online opportunity for them. But this virtual option is so attractive for that reason. There could be students who are quarantined just because they've come in contact with someone, but may not necessarily be sick. In an in-person environment, we may ask that student or students who've been exposed to stay home from school, meaning that they may miss some of the instruction. But if we were in an online format, they would easily be able to jump on with their class and keep up with their studies. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to hear it because, no, not to say that it would actually like change, but I know that it will still be a little different because they may not be feeling well. Maybe they can't jump on to the virtual,
Yeah,
so
if
that's
they're
why.
not feeling well, we would allow them the opportunity to, recover and provide them with makeup work. I know that all of the schools are great with providing students with makeup work when they're ill and they are
Thank you,
able
Dr.
to
Hitchcock.
participate.
Okay, thank
Whether
you.
we're
I'm sorry, go ahead. All right, thank you. Dr. Baptiste, can you tell me, I wonder if, kind of finding the silver lining in this situation, are there technology tools that we've discovered in terms of student learning during this process that would be helpful for us when we do return to in-person learning to enhance our instruction in that setting as well?
Absolutely. I think that continuing to use Google Classrooms is a wonderful opportunity to just even with managing the amount of paperwork that teachers with creating worksheets and photocopying and distributing, and you lost the worksheet or you need it again. I also think that especially in regards to asynchronous supports, that the opportunity for the teacher to utilize the asynchronous support, but not just as a one-off, like, oh, just go watch this video, but you learn that in this video. What can you tell me? What can you teach me? What can you teach someone else about what you just learned? And then just in thinking of having 21st century skills and being competitive in the marketplace, you need to have technology skills. You need to be adaptive. You need to be able to collaborate with other people, utilizing things like Zoom and engaging the way that we're engaging now. I don't think we're not going back. Even after COVID, there are just some things that are going to continue, and our students need to actually be technologically savvy and competent. And as our teachers as well, this is the brave new world that we're in.
Okay, thank you. And you spoke about the feedback that we've been getting from students and what we've been seeing as far as results. Have we noticed any disparities when we look at that in terms of our English language learners, our students from, our at-risk students or our special ed students, any other particular populations that we're seeing disparities when it comes to their ability to connect through this platform?
I will say that one of the things that I really appreciated seeing during the summer enrichment were modifications that were made for students who have an IEP and teachers who really highlighted the collaboration that took place between not only just themselves and the student, but also incorporating parent interactions with like how to best support the child in the online learning setting. Having the opportunity to have seen general education and special education teachers collaborate and then seeing that lesson live showed me that really the key for that particular population is the collaboration between general education and special education teachers to make sure that special education students or students receiving specialized services are able to access grade level standard rigorous instruction as well, no matter needing that additional support or modification, that what they're exposed to and the level of expectation is a high expectation. For English language learners, I think that best practice for what we call sheltered instruction would be something that to serve students who are English language learners, looking at opportunities for how to provide things like sheltered instruction. So meaning looking at whatever the essential question of a lesson is, or whatever your learning objective is, what is the one key component that's a common thread that's being repeated throughout the lesson so that the student has familiarity and consistency throughout that same lesson. And small group instruction as well would be very much key for those populations.
And what about in terms of differentiated instruction, especially when we think about students in need of enrichment who may be at a more advanced level? I know that in some online platforms, it's dynamic. It responds to each individual student's performance in the actual lesson. And obviously that would be a difference between synchronous and asynchronous. How does this learning how do these learning tools allow us to serve the needs of those students with with differentiated levels of achievement and knowledge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know that the district utilizes something called News ELA. And with News ELA, it's an online platform where you can send out news articles and clips that are various reading levels. And so let's say it is an article that's at the New York Times reading level. The same article would be transcribed to have academic language at various grade levels. And so it's the same content, it's the same information, but the format in which it's presented, and each student could have it assigned individually, where they don't even have to know from one student to the next that one is reading on one grade level and the other is reading on another kind of a grade level. I also think that in terms of differentiation, and we focus a great deal on differentiation, but I really like that you brought up enrichment. So with small group instruction, that's also targeted small group instruction that can be applied for enrichment, and really in thinking of higher order thinking questions for students, writing activities for students, and opportunities for them to also co-facilitate classes and present what they've learned to the class as a teacher. That's a great opportunity for them to showcase their knowledge, and also for the teacher to be able to, what would really be key for either differentiation or enrichment is for the teacher to be able to give targeted feedback to best support that student with what their next steps are, especially for when they're doing work independently.
All right, thank you. Are there any other board members that have any other questions at this time? All right, thank you, Dr. Baptiste, and thank you to the whole teaching and learning team for all of your work. We're going to move now to audience participation. I'm going to ask that those members of the audience who would like to participate in audience participation, if you could please indicate that in the chat, and I will call on you. We are going to ask anyone that participates in audience participation to limit your comments to 3 minutes so that all who wish to speak may have the opportunity to do so. We also ask that you identify yourself and your address where you live, and a reminder to everyone that audience participation is communication from the community to the board. The board appreciates all the comments that are made, but will not respond, so that it's not a two-way communication. It's an opportunity for members of the community to provide their input to the board. Mr. Admission, go ahead.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Michael Admission. I live at 35535 Richland in Livonia. I have the honor and privilege of being a teacher at the Oak Park High School. I'm here tonight as president and on behalf of the Oak Park Education Association, as I was last week, to advocate that the district adopt a fully virtual return to learn plan as was outlined by Dr. Hitchcock in her very thorough presentation last week. But before I get started, I wanted to take a moment and say hi to Ms. Lunkins and say how happy we are that you are back and on the mend.
Thank you.
Looking at a report that was published in MLive this weekend, taking data directly from the state of Michigan's reporting sites, Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County were still listed in the top 10 counties in the state of Michigan with new cases. Wayne had 147, Macomb had 130, Oakland had 115, and those were daily new cases that were reported on Friday. Looking at how our district services students entirely from those three counties, I don't see how it's responsible to consider reopening face-to-face at this juncture. Cases have continued to rise both locally as well as across Michigan, and I, as well as many other educators across the state, do not foresee a drastic turn of this trajectory within the next month. Several districts in the area, many in our backyard, have already made the choice to start virtually, even after initially considering some sort of face-to-face instruction. There stands a very real need to not rush that face-to-face reopening of the district. The physical learning spaces of the district, even with adherence to all of the required and even strongly recommended criteria that are listed in the state's return to learn roadmap, will still provide a dangerous and likely dangerous learning environment and likely cause community spread, given the continued increase in the community spread around the metro region. The health expert that spoke tonight also presented those very real considerations, namely mask and spacing requirements that are simply not possible in our school setting as it stands today. The vast majority of rooms in the districts will have issues with 3 feet of spacing between students, let alone the CDC recommended 6 feet. The current state of the EO, as was mentioned, mandated that all indoor gatherings be capped at 10 masked individuals, yet interestingly enough, schools are exempted from that. But I would say not for CDC reasons, more for political reasons. Even my smallest class last year was far larger than 10 students, and that would have been much smaller than most of the other classes in the district. Think now to busing. How many kids ride a bus to school in Oak Park every morning? Look at the space constraints that would appear not just in a classroom, but also in a bus, and think about how much less authority a bus driver would have to enforce those space constraints while students are being bused to class. Last week, New York Times published 2 very good pieces on the pandemic that I found illuminating, and my computer has gone to sleep. There was one piece that highlighted community spread in Indiana. There was a school district in Indiana that opened and had to close almost immediately because they had demonstrated cases on the first day back. We look at the nation's 25 largest districts, all but 6 have indicated that they are going to start remotely. Any locality that pushes to reopen prematurely is likely to see those positive test results increase. There was another article, Children Carrying Coronaviruses at High Levels Study Finds, that was published also in the New York Times, that looked at a study looked at a study coming out of Children's Hospital in Chicago, indicated that children, much touted as not getting sick nor spreading the disease, actually have drastically increased viral loads in their noses and throats and throughout their respiratory tracts when compared to similarly infected individuals.
Mr. Adams, I appreciate your comments, but please do try to wrap up.
Okay. The results in those studies lined up with Germany and France, lined up in other places where community spread amongst children is something that happens. It's not something that you can explain away. As I stated last week, and I echo again tonight, I, as well as other educators in the OPEA, want to be back to school teaching our students face-to-face. We long for interpersonal contact with our students and a return to some sort of normalcy. However, that yearning for interaction must be tempered with the raw reality of the situation. It is woefully unsafe, even under the best circumstances, to return to in-person education in any form. Virtual education presents a viable, safe alternative that the vast majority of parents and educators in Oak Park strongly favor at this time. I urge you, the Board of Education, to keep the Oak Park School District community safe by returning us virtually at the end of this month and keeping us that way for as long as it is unsafe to return to school in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adameshin, and thank you for being mindful of the time. Mr. Conan?
Hello, my name is Pete Conan. I live at 13331 Rosemary Boulevard in Oak Park, Michigan. That's actually down the street from the high school. I can almost see my classroom from my driveway. My science degree was focused on micro and molecular biology. And with this level of expertise and my knowledge of immunology and virology, right now, I cannot see a way to adequately sanitize our classrooms with the time constraints we have between classes and before classes, to actually make it safe for students and for staff. And just to make it a little bit anecdotal, I've got 2 friends right now who are active with COVID. One of them contracted it from her child, and she's immunocompromised, and she went to the hospital tonight at 6:30. So it's a very real thing in this area, and it's a very real concern that I have. And I think it's something to take into account, because chances of me personally getting it, because I'm young and in shape and I've got a good immune system, are pretty low. So I'm not concerned about myself. But if we go back to school in person, I'm not going to see any of my friends or family for fear of infecting them, because I'll be exposed to 1,200 people per day. And that's not going to be good for my mental health. So I just want to speak on that behalf. For the rest of our teachers who are actually healthy, we're going to struggle a lot isolating ourselves from our friends and family just for their sake, because we are going to be exposed to this level if we have to go back in person. And that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Tarver?
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to say that I'm Sharon Tarver. Address is 330 West 8 Mile, Apartment 20, Ferndale, Michigan 48220. I represent the parapros in Oak Park School District, and I just want to say that we are fully in support of Dr. Hitchcock's recommendation of virtual learning. It's just too many variables out there for us to come back and to be safe in the classroom, like with the students and with the other staff. So I totally hope and pray that you guys back Dr. Hitchcock's recommendation for virtual learning. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Trice?
Hi, my name is Alnita Trice. I live at 17210 Cherry Line, Detroit, Michigan, 48221. I kind of want to just talk briefly about summer school and synchronous learning. I wanted to kind of give you a feeling that it does work. Kids can be engaged, and I had a lot of fun. I had a co-teacher, we worked it out. So do know that even in that environment, that students can learn. We got emails from parents who thanked us for having the kids be engaged. I just don't want you to feel like they will not miss out on anything, because if you have buy-in in teaching kids, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter. And I feel that it is very important that you trust that as professionals, we will do our very best to make sure that all kids have a great education. That's why we got in the field. And I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of ease, because my kids were engaged. They were coming daily. We co-taught when we were helping each other. And even with learners who may have had disabilities within our classroom setting, you wouldn't have known, because we made certain that they could actually respond to other students. I used to tutor a girl before we even went to class so that she could be a part of the discussion when we were in whole group, so she could feel like she could be a part of that group. I just wanted you guys to know as a board that we are fully invested in children, and that we are willing to go above and beyond, even if it's on a virtual platform. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ms. Trice.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, I'd just like to say we are all sitting here in this.
I'm sorry, Brian. Can you please identify your first and last name and your address? I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead. Okay. Are there any other members of the community that
Malcolm,
would like?
can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
It's
Go
Brian.
ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Brian.
So
You could
I
please
just want,
identify yourself.
I lost you there, but I just wanted to say, I find it
I'm
challenging.
sorry, Brian. If you could please identify yourself before you speak, your first
Sure.
and last.
Brian Hartzig, Pepper Elementary. I'm at 11515 Washington Township, Michigan. And I am basically, I find it challenging that we are all online trying to decide if our children should go to school. And, you know, even within my own district, and I am probably 40, 45 miles from you guys, where I work for the last 22 years, it's something to take into account that we are all online talking about, do we send our most valuable people to school? And that's pretty much my contention.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the community that would like to speak at this time? If you could please type into the chat. Okay, and not seeing any, we're going to move on. There will be another opportunity for audience participation at the end of the meeting, but at this time we're going to move on to our action item. Our first action item is the consent agenda, which only has one item on it, which is approval of the minutes. Are there any more board members that object to having the approval of minutes on the consent agenda? I don't see any, so I'm going to call a voice vote on the consent agenda for approval of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. The consent agenda is approved, and we move on to our next action item, which is regarding approval of the return to school plan. And Trustee Bailey, can you read that one, please?
No, I don't have it up in front of me.
Don't have it.
Okay. Then I will read it. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education approves the superintendent's return to school learning plan for a full virtual for a fully virtual return to school for the first marking period to be reassessed by October 30th for the second marking period.
Support.
So moved by myself, supported by Trustee Smith. Are there any questions on this motion? Any questions or comments from the board on this motion? Okay, I would like to I would like to make one comment about it before we move on to the vote, which is I think this obviously a very important decision and a very difficult decision. And as an individual, it's very personal to me. I've seen people close to me who have been deeply affected by this. I've seen friends and family members who passed away. I've seen friends and family members who have been very ill, including Trustee Lunkins, who we're so glad is with us here tonight. As someone who is immunocompromised and who has a chronic condition that puts me at higher risk, this has been a very scary time and continues to be. And in approaching this decision for my own children, both in terms
You're muted.
Mr. Boyda, you're muted.
Mute.
See, that's the I think that's the nightmare of every politician, right? Is to be going on giving a speech and no one hears you. Trustee, are there any board members that have a comment at this time or question?
I'd like to comment.
Trustee Klein.
I agree with everything that you said. It's an extraordinarily charged issue. I also had COVID along with the rest of my family in early March. It was not a pleasant experience, but we got through it. I also watched my 4 kids go through virtual education, and it was not smooth sailing, to say the least. And that's with 2 parents who are educated, trying to help out. Also, one of my kids has special needs. He's deaf, so that certainly made things more difficult. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there, but it's extraordinarily difficult. And when I think about the school, I think about the kids. And it was extraordinarily powerful to me last week when we had a student call in and say, basically, he's dying to get back in the classroom because it wasn't working out. Now, I understand that's not the data, and that's not the surveys that we have. And I'm actually, when we call the vote, I intend to approve, to vote at least, to approve the plan as set forth, because I have the utmost confidence in Dr. Hitchcock and her team. It's phenomenal. But more so because also the data from the teachers is that the teachers are very much in favor of a virtual start to the school year, and the teachers, second to the students, are our most important asset. And we need teachers who are not coming in scared or anything like that. The reason I'm making this comment after I'm going to vote for what I presume is going to be the same as everybody else, hearing everybody else's comments, is because there's 100 people on here, and I want everybody to know that the board is made up of individuals who each are individuals indeed, and we all care deeply for the school. And I just wanted, there might be some people here who are going, man, I want my kids to go to school. And dear God, I wish my kids could go to school. And the people shouldn't think that the board always votes in lockstep. I will be voting in lockstep here, but because of the reasons that I set forth, even though I have my own feelings on the actual topic. And I hope that everybody on here can understand that and get a greater appreciation for the board, but also for our trust in Dr. Hitchcock.
Thank you, Trustee Klein. Trustee Smith.
Yeah, so I'm just going to be frank here. This is not rocket science. We want the best protection for everybody in the school district here. You know, I don't want us to knock what our kids can do with our parents and what our staff, teachers, superintendents can do here. I think we're a resilient, a very resilient organization, school district. I think we'll take it. We'll see this through, and I just don't want us to not look at what's not best for the entire district. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So just to finish off what I was saying earlier, something that really concerns me, I think, you know, this is personal for everyone. This is something, it's scary for everyone. And something that something that has bothered me as we've gone through this is that, as you know, the idea of providing community education, of a community coming together with all of its disparate interests to serve the educational needs of our students is really a remarkable thing. It's something that is unique in history. Democracy in general is a messy process and is always difficult, but it depends on being able to have civil discourse. It depends on us trusting each other to be able to say that we're going to come together for what's best for the community. And one of the things that has troubled me as we've gone through this debate over the last few months is that sometimes in our society, this has become very polarizing. And part of that is because of politics, and part of that is because there's so much conflicting information out there, and part of it is because of a lot of other reasons. But I think that as we discuss this and as we make this decision, we must have civil discourse. We cannot be saying anyone who wants to open schools doesn't care about safety, or anyone who wants to close schools doesn't care about what the parents need, or anyone who those types of accusations are not helpful, and they make it difficult and almost impossible to come together as a community and make tough decisions like this. It's much easier to do this in a private system, in a privatized system, in other systems where one person has to struggle with the decision and make it. When we're doing this as a community, we need to trust each other and we need to respect each other. And so I hope that we in Oak Park can be an example. Just from our data that we saw tonight, we know that there are at least 60 to 70 families, which if we project that out, probably means a few hundred families in our district who want their children to go back to in-person learning. And the idea that we as an educational community collecting funding from our taxpayers are saying back to those taxpayers, you want to send your children to school, and we're saying no. The only way we can say that is if we is in an extreme situation, right? Which this may be. And I think that we have to understand how important that is, that as we communicate this, that there are people with different points of view, and it's not because they're uneducated or less educated. It's not because they're wrong. It's not because they care more about the economy than students or anything else. We need to be mindful of the fact that we are a community with different perspectives that people come to honestly, and that if we're going to continue to work together as a community, we have to really be mindful of keeping the dialogue and the debate respectful and trustworthy. And that is where we get that is what we can model to our students, because the whole idea of education is that we believe that information combats fear. When we're driven by fear, that isn't good for us as individuals, and it's certainly not good for our society. Information combats fear, and so we need to seek out good information. We need to model to our students and to our community how to consume information in a critical way, not just to take the information that agrees with our point of view, but really to think about our own biases also as we do that. So we're going to move ahead with this vote, and we're going to make it, but I want to do so with in mind that whichever way we decide, it's going to be difficult for a large number of people in our community of parents, our community of students, our community of staff. Whichever way this vote goes, there are going to be people who are happy and people who are disappointed. There are going to be people who are going to have to make big changes to their daily life because of the decision we're about to make. So at this time, I'm going to ask, are there any other board members who have comments or questions on this resolution? Trustee Goodfriend.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyt. I want to honestly say that I've spoken to the pros and cons within our community and outside of our community. And I've taken all of that into consideration, and I've discussed it with others within the Oak Park system as well as outside, but who are professionals. And I believe that our staff are all professionals, and their work has been superb. And I don't believe there is one person on our staff that would be opposed to working to help our children, nor to put ourselves and our staff in any serious danger that we can try to prevent. It doesn't mean we're going to get away with it. It doesn't mean we may not get caught in this terrible disease. It could happen, God forbid, to any of us. But we have to consider the professionals that have studied this, and I take that into consideration, and I thank each and every one of the members on these committees that have worked it. It's been a joy to see the working relationship, and I want to thank you. My vote will be to vote yes. We will have to go to the virtual. If we have to go further, and if there's any staff members, if they're still listening to us after all these hours tonight, or otherwise that needs help, I think they should just say it. And then we all have to, I said before, not all of us are comfortable with a virtual system. Not all of us are discomforting when they have to do something that's, they know they're not as well prepared for. But I am sure that in this community, everyone will give 1,000%. And thank you very much, every one of you, for what you have spoken tonight, as well as what you have worked with all these many hours in the last couple months. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Goodfriend. Are there other board members who would like to comment before we vote or have questions? Okay, then Ms. Greer, the question is approval of the superintendent's recommendation for the return to learning plan. Ms. Greer, will you please call the roll?
Bailey? Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Hoda?
Yes.
Lunkins? Lunkins? Smith?
Ms. Lunkins?
Smith?
Wait,
Yes.
Jamie.
Ms. Lunkins.
Klein? I'll be back. I'll be back to her. Klein?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Lunkins?
Jamie,
Lunkins?
I think it's
Ms.
muted.
Lunkins, you still there?
Muted.
Ms.
her on
Lunkins, you
speaker.
still there? Thanks, Steve. Okay, they're taking the vote right now. Are you voting yes to return virtually or no to return in person?
Virtually.
Okay, so Ms. Lunkins' vote will be recorded as yes, and the motion passes. We do have another. Yes, we do have another. We have another item that unfortunately was not on the board agenda that was sent out, but this is for approval of the recommended personnel action, which is approval of the hiring of the OPA principal. And Dr. Hitchcock?
It's on there.
It's on there.
It's on there.
I have it, Mr. Hoda.
Okay. Dr. Hitchcock, can you put that on the screen? Because I know there were some board members who may not have gotten it.
Hey, Mr. Hoda, I can read it right now.
We apologize. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yes, resolve that the Oak Park Board of Education approve the recommendation to hire Kim Regina as principal at OPA.
Support.
Moved by Trustee Smith, supported by Trustee Goodfriend. Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Greerley, please call the roll.
Smith?
Yes.
Klein?
Yep.
Lunkins? Hoda?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Goodfriend?
Yes.
And Copeland?
Yes.
Okay, before we wrap up, we do have a retreat scheduled for next Monday. I wanted to bring that back to the board. I know we've had a lot of long meetings recently. I also know that these retreats are very important for the cohesiveness and teamwork of the board. So I wanted to hear from the board. Did you want to continue and move forward with having a virtual retreat next Monday at 6:30, or do we want to put that off? Do we want to wait? So I wanted to bring that up for discussion.
I'm available.
And we, I guess, yeah, we'll go around. So I'll start with Trustee Bailey.
I'm available.
Okay, Trustee Goodfriend?
I don't find it to be necessary at this time. There's just too much going on that we should.
I can't even do it.
Okay.
It's
Trustee
much.
Corcoran?
I need a break. Availability. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. No, next Monday I will not be available.
Well,
Okay. Trustee Klein?
I have to agree here with Trustee Goodfriend. And whether I'm available or not, it's I don't know if now's the right time. And we'd be doing it virtually anyways.
Trustee Smith?
Yeah, I'm in lieu of I'm not in favor of this right now. I don't find it necessary right now. It's too much that the staff has to do right now. So
okay. So it seems like the feeling of the board is that we want to put off the retreat at this time, and so we'll go ahead and cancel our scheduled retreat, which was scheduled for Monday, August the 10th, which means our next scheduled meeting is Monday, August 24th, I believe. At this time,
Well,
are there... I'm sorry.
I hate to do this.
Yes.
I'm really sorry to do this, but we still were hoping to meet briefly on August 10th for additional personnel and the plan that has to go to the state that must be submitted by the 15th of August has to be approved by the board.
Okay. So we do need to meet on the 10th.
So we needed to know what direction we...
Okay. Got it. So we do need to meet on the 10th, but we don't need to have the retreat on the 10th. So I know at the last meeting, Trustee Goodfriend expressed the desire to have all meetings start after 7. Is that still the case, Trustee Goodfriend, or can we have that meeting
If
early?
that's the only topic that's going to be that we need to do, we can put it at 6 o'clock or 6:30. Other than that, if it's going to be longer than the one decision that has to be made for the state, then it'll be 7 o'clock as far as I'm concerned.
So was the decision, so I think Dr. Hitchcock, you said the approval of the plan for the state and some personnel actions?
Yes, correct.
7 o'clock.
I think 6 o'clock is better. Our meetings go pretty long. So, I mean, like right now it's 10 o'clock and we're just getting off a call. So if you move them up a little earlier, maybe we'll get off at 9 o'clock rather than so late at night. I think it's far more productive as well. So we're not all.
Any other board members object to 6 o'clock meeting?
I do.
6 o'clock is kind of, 6 o'clock is,
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock is good for me also.
Yeah, 6 is good for me.
No.
6 o'clock, again, I have to agree with Trustee Goodfriend. 6 o'clock is tough, and even though we may plan this to be short, frequently meetings go longer than expected. I'd much rather start at 7.
That's right.
Can we compromise on 6:30?
6:30.
No, I can't make it.
Oh, come.
I have not had my dinner yet.
I haven't either.
Okay.
I haven't either.
6:30 is good.
6:30 is good.
7 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay. So
Maybe we just take a vote on it.
Take a vote.
I do.
So it's
Make a motion to put it on the floor.
I'd like to make a motion that we move the meeting for August 10th to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Support.
So there's a motion by Trustee Smith that we schedule a meeting for August 10th at 6:30 p.m. It's supported by Trustee Bailey. Are there any questions on the motion?
I have a question. Can we make this a multiple choice so that we can all just get to the point and decide whether it's 6:30 or 7? Or do we have to do it in separate motions?
The motion is on the floor.
Order.
And if it's on the floor, you call the question.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the motion? Okay, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Bailey,
Yes.
Copeland,
Yes.
Goodfriend,
No.
Hoda,
Yes.
Lunkins, Smith,
Yes.
and Klein.
Abstain.
So the motion is approved. And the meeting is scheduled for next Monday at 6:30. Hopefully, this will be a quicker meeting. And I will now turn to communications and addenda. Are there any additional communications or addenda from the administration? Okay.
No, thank you, other than thank you for your support to the board
Any
members.
members of the community that would like to comment at this time, if you could please type into the chat that to indicate that you'd like to make a comment. Okay. Any members of the board that have comments before we close the meeting?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Smith.
Yes, to the board, to the board, to the community, to the staff, the superintendent, the staff. There's a poem called "See It Through" by Edgar A. Guest. I say that we adopt that and we see this through. Okay, we see this through. We're gonna make it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Smith. Any other members of the board that would like to comment at this time? Anything else to say?
Yes, I'd like to comment. I just want to, thank you. I just want to say that I've been a board member for the past 2 years, and while deciding to even become a board member, I was the only one in the board meeting attending, watching. So to see so many people excited about, how we're going to return to school, give great input on how we should return to school, it's very refreshing. And here we are with election day tomorrow. I hope that, we can continue getting, great elected officials that care, being more involved and being excited about our community like you stakeholders are. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bailey. Mr. Hartzig, you typed into the chat that you would like to go ahead.
Certainly, if I have one more shot. I just appreciate the dedication to children. For all of those that have children, I think we've made the right choice. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Any other members of the board that would like to say anything at this time? Okay, so as Trustee Bailey mentioned, tomorrow's election day. If you haven't had a chance to vote yet, please do make sure that you get out and vote in our primary so that we can have our voices heard. And if you have an absentee ballot, make sure that it's been dropped off at the clerk's office. And with that, I'm going to close this meeting at 10:12. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 10th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody.
Everybody, great job, everybody.
Thank you.